What's up, YouTube? This is my updated Marvel Rivals tier list for Season 1 Eternal Night, which just went live today. We just got the biggest patch for this game since its release, and there were a lot of adjusted characters, so our tier list is quite different. Also, I've got about 100 more hours in this game, so this tier list is very, very different from the one I uploaded last week. A couple of things before we get into the video. One, if you haven't already seen my patch notes video going over every adjustment that they just added this morning with the brand new update, go check that out so you can understand why this tier list is the way it is. And number two, listen, my comment section says I have the worst takes on the internet, so we're going to see if they're right. Strap in. Let's see if I can get you triggered. Just like last time, we're going to start off with Vanguards. We're going to start with Doctor Strange, and he still holds his spot as the best tank in Marvel Rivals and one of the best characters. They slightly nerfed his Maelstrom of Madness, his little AoE attack, but they also buffed his shield recovery, so it was a great tweak, I guess. I wish they wouldn't have touched him, but they did give him a slight buff and a slight nerf. It balanced it out pretty well, but he still maintains the best tank in the game. Next up, we have Captain America. He was all the way down in C tier on my last video, but he is actually moved up to high A, possibly low S. I think that he's very misunderstood. At the time I made that video, which is about 4 weeks ago, I was very early. Captain America is honestly one of the better dive tanks. I think at the time before the patch, he was better than Venom at diving. Sorry, go watch Flats play. That creator has shown us that Captain America was actually really, really good when run correctly. So that was very interesting to see. And with his big health buff this patch and his ultimate fixings, like, I think he is properly slotted at very high A, almost low S. I think he is the best A tier Vanguard on the list. Next up, we have Hulk. I think he is still slotted best at A. Great tank. They slightly nerfed his Gamma Shield, which I think was a big, big decision. It's going to make your quick play guys even less approachable when it comes to using Hulk. But as far as the high skill competitive lobbies, Hulk was a little busted, so I understand why they did it. But he still maintains his spot at A with a slight diff to Captain America. I think Captain America is slightly better. Next up, we got Thor. I'm staying with my original thought on my first tier list. He is still an S tier tank. He's the best DPS tank. His damage absorption is insane, and they even gave him a health buff, and they made his ultimate more effective. By the way, his ult was fine. It was a skill diff issue. If you have any issues using Thor's ultimate, like, just go practice. It's not because he's a bad ult. It's fine. I've never had an issue with his ult, and I've been able to wipe whole lobbies in high rank. So just be aware. Thor is properly slotted as the second best tank still, in my opinion. Next up, we got Venom, and I had him at B tier last season, and guess what? We're going to move him right back to B tier. I think even with the survivability increase, yes, he's a better dive tank. I think we're going to see a lot more action with Venom, but I still, even with my only limited 10 hours of playtime today, the several times I ran with Venoms, I saw nothing different. He still gets melted in the back line, and in big pushes, he still is the first one to go down, so I think he's still a B tier tank. I liked that they reworked his ultimate, and I liked that they gave him a slight buff to his survivability, but it's just not enough yet. Next up, Groot. He is still an A tier tank. They didn't adjust him at all. I still think he is very viable in the new Season 1. One of the better tank choices and a very great swap whenever you're getting beamed. I think he's the best tank to go and isolate enemies so your team can fry. I love Groot. Nothing bad to say about that man. And last up on the list, we have Magneto. With no adjustments made to him, he is still a S tier tank. I think he is the third best option in general, but as far as his damage mitigation, I've said it before, he is the best damage mitigator in my opinion with his Iron Bulwark and his Magnet Curtain. I think he is just an absolute powerhouse when it comes to staying alive and being very, very frustrating to drop when the other team has a good mag. I hate dealing with good Magnetos. Oh, and not last. I'm so sorry. We forgot about Penny. We forgot about Penny Parker. She is still a B tier tank in my opinion. She's one of the best defensive tanks, but they've done nothing to address her bad damage output or the fact that she can't mitigate damage any better than Venom. She is still probably the weakest tank of all the Vanguards. I think it goes Penny is the worst, and then Venom. They're all the, and just before you guys go down and comment, listen, all of these characters right here on this Vanguard list are still viable. You can still use them. I'm just think that there's more optimized characters out there for specific roles. Like, if you want to talk about Venom being the best dive tank, well, he's not. And if you want to play a good dive tank, go play Captain America, figure him out. You can still run Venom and have fun with him in competitive and quick play, but there's more optimized characters to fulfill the roles that these characters are. That's all I'm saying, and this is my opinion, so take it with a grain of salt. Next up, we have Duelist, and there's a lot of shifting going on from my original video, and I'm very excited to get through it. So much so that I had to get my notes out. First up, we have Black Panther. I think he is still a B tier He's good in the backlines. That's really it. They did slightly nerf his ability to stay up. I never thought he was anything above B, and he still stays there in my opinion. If anything, he's slightly lower now because he can't get his health back as quick as he used to. Next up, we have Black Widow, and after all the buffs, guys, I'm putting her still at D. She's still not usable in my opinion. They've done nothing for her basic attack. They've made her ultimate slightly better, but they've done nothing to address the fact that she cannot one-shot squishies. She can't even two-shot them. She is absolute buns. I would stay away from Black Widow. Like, I think she's the only character in the game that you should actively never play because she's just not good. Next up, we have Storm. She was in D tier, but she has moved all the way up, in my opinion, to high B, possibly low A, and this is still early. That could change very quickly depending on how I see the metas going. I've watched a lot of streams today. I don't think she's an A or S tier character. I think she's perfectly slotted at B. They slightly buffed her. They made her ultimate better with her health. I think she was already slept on. I should not have put her in D tier. I was early when I made that video because I've used her a lot. I was actually making a big video I was very excited to put out, but with the seasonal update, it's no longer. I was going to literally try to rank up Storm from bronze all the way to game master. That was my grand master. That was my plan for a video. I thought it'd be fun to like climb through the ranks with the worst character in Marvel Rivals and then make a video, but they've buffed her and now everybody knows she's not bad, so that video quickly got scrapped. But still think she's very viable. High B, possibly low A. We'll see if that adjusts. Next up, we got Magic. Even with the slight buff to her ultimate, I still think she's B tier. When it comes to brawling heroes, there's other heroes that do it better. I'm sure people disagree with that. That's fine. That's your opinion. I personally never have a problem with Magic ever. Wanda was B tier in my last video. She is D tier. I don't think she's very good. Her ultimate is very telegraphed now. Like, as we've been playing this game 100 hours in, I've never had a problem with Wanda since my first 10 hours because I learned to get out of her ultimate and I found out she's actually buns when it comes to getting picks. Very, very bad. Next up, we have Psylocke. She is still one of the best duelists in the game. They only adjusted her ultimate slightly, and it did nothing as far as her positioning on this tier list. She is still top 2 duelist or top 3. Absolutely fun and insane character. I've been playing her a lot lately in quick play, trying to practice. Next up, we have the amazing Spider-Man. I think he's B tier. He's a good backline diver. Nothing different here. They haven't adjusted him, and my opinion hasn't changed. I still think he is mid. Next up is Iron Man. He still maintains his spot at A tier. Listen, at one point I used to dog on this man. Once you get to the higher ranks and they start banning Hawkeye and Hela, he becomes incredibly good. I said that in my last video, and I'll say it again. When he's comboed up with Hulk, it's absolutely crazy, and it's still going to be crazy in the new season. And speaking of Hawkeye and Hela, they are still in S tier. These two have not changed. They said they were going to nerf them. They nerfed baseline health on Hela, and they slightly reduced Hawkeye's damage, but they both still can do insane damage. Hawkeye can still one-shot squishies and like 4-shot tanks. Hela is still 2-shotting squishies and 5-shotting tanks. So like, they didn't do anything with these two. They are still broken. So if you were a Hela or a Hawkeye main, rejoice because you have another 90 days, I think, to play these characters. They did remove the seasonal buffs like by 10%. They didn't remove them altogether, so these guys are still crazy. Next up, we have the Punisher. This is going to be the biggest shift on this list because he was like B, I think, last season for me. Now he's S tier. They have reduced the spread of his weapons, and now he fires beams. And I think he is going to change the landscape of competitive in the high ranks for sure. You're going to see this guy getting banned. You're going to see a lot of people maining him. With that spread fire coming down to do a laser, he's dealing so much damage. I'm very excited to see what happens with Punisher. That's the biggest shift on the list. Next up, we have Moon Knight. I still think he's B tier. Nothing's been addressed apart from his ultimate. They made his ultimate way more viable. It is faster. It hits harder. But once you figure out his onks, again, Moon Knight is just not a problem. So I'm glad they buffed his ult. That's great, but it doesn't really affect me in my games. Next up, we have Wolverine. I had him in A tier last season, but he has ascended to S tier. And that is because he has been my main on DPS for the past week. Once I learned how to use Wolverine, I started going insane and competitive. And once you watch some of the top players in the world use him and you start implementing their strategies, you find out very quickly he's the most slept on character in Marvel Rivals. He already was, and they buffed him this season. So with the buff and my newfound respect for him, he's S tier. And I think, honestly, this might be controversial, I think he's the second best duelist in the game. He can fry any tank. They gave him a 50-point health buff or a 25-point buff. I don't remember off the top of my head. Point is, they buffed his health. They did slightly reduce the amount of damage reduction he does with his damage reduction ability, but that health buff still makes him crazy, and I can still go off in competitive. I've already hard carried 4 matches in gold today, and it was with no difficulty whatsoever. And mind you, I'm playing with diamond ranked players, and the fact that I can just go 30-0 with them is insane. Next up, we have Star-Lord. My man, I think, is A tier. I want to put him in S, but he really isn't that big of a deal. Once you get good like hit scan characters like Hawkeye and Hela, they can knock him out of the sky. He's just not that big of a problem. His ult is still pretty crazy and very viable, but once you get in higher ranks, he's not that big of a deal. Next up, we have Mr. Fantastic. This might be premature, but I'm putting him S tier. I've been playing with him exclusively almost all day, and I've been going absolutely crazy. I've been watching some top 500 streams, or one above all, whatever you want to call it, and what I've been seeing people do with him is crazy. He's getting banned. People are very much afraid of what this guy is going to do. He is pretty much a DPS tank. This guy can take so much damage. He can redirect ults. There's not enough things to say about this dude. Mr. Fantastic is absolutely insane in the new season. I think he's going to be fun to watch a lot of streamers use and complain about, because I think he is the new meta. Next up, we have Winter Soldier, properly slotted at B tier. I think Bucky is overrated. I really, really do. There are some people who can go crazy with him, but for the most part, he's not an issue. They did make him slightly more viable in close to mid-range fights. That's where his sweet spot is. You're not meant to do pick damage from a distance, but he's still very, very good close distance. The problem is there's other characters that do it better. Spider-Man's better close up. Iron Fist and Wolverine, there's just characters that do that job better. So I think as far as a mid to close range character, you have better options, which is why we're sticking him down in B tier. Next up, Iron Fist. He retains his spot on the B tier list, unfortunately, slightly above Bucky. I just don't see a lot of Iron Fist in high rank. I think that says a lot. He's very good at attacking the back line, but unfortunately, there's other characters that do it better, like Psylocke and Wolverine and Star-Lord. So honestly, yeah, there's better choices. If you just want to annoy somebody in quick play, go pick up Iron Fist and beat him up. For the most part, you're not going to be very viable and competitive. Next up, we have Namor. Namor is high A, kissing S tier. He does exactly what Hawkeye and Hela does. I really want to say he is the best duelist in A tier. I almost want to put him S tier. He's very, very good. If you can hit your shots, he's crazy. His ult's good. His monsters are decent. They do pretty cool stuff. They can shut down backline dives. I just think he is properly slotted for A tier. I don't think he's as good as the heroes up there, so we're going to keep him in A. Next up is Squirrel Girl. I am putting her C tier again, same as last video. I don't see her, and when I do see her, I don't have an issue with her, so I'm assuming she's just not very good. Again, over 100+ hours in this game, and I've never run across her more than once a day, so for the most part, I don't even know what her kit is. I wouldn't be able to tell you what her abilities are, and she's never given me grief at all in competitive. And that's my official Marvel Rivals Duelist tier list and where I would put them. Finally, we have my Strategist and where I'm going to put them with the new season. This is my official Strategist tier list. I'm very excited about this. Let's go. First off, Adam Warlock. My main man, you're B tier. You're a B tier healer, and everybody knows it. If you don't know that, I'm sorry, you should. He's not very good at healing. He has a really good ultimate when people know where to place it, but for the most part, when people pop that ultimate in the lower ranks, they just pop the ult in the middle of a fight, and then you get dropped instantly. So his ultimate's decent if used correctly, but it's not nearly as good as some of the other healers, and so I think it's overrated. I think he's very overrated. He does good damage, but there's other healers that do more damage, and there's other healers that do more healing. He's okay. Like, he's not a bad pick. He's just not as good as the other ones. Next up, and my most controversial take here, I've got Sue Storm in S tier. I think she's absolutely goated. Listen, she's got a static invis. As long as you're not in engagement, she's invisible, just baseline, which is pretty crazy. Next up, her portable shields that she throws on people, clutch. Her healing is really, really good. She has a double jump, so her traversal's great. And she has an ability where she can pull you in or push you off. That's also awesome. And finally, let's talk about her ultimate. It's absolutely crazy. It does insane healing. It makes everybody invisible. It's very, very clutch. It's on the same level as Mantis and Luna. And you guys already know I think that they're S tier healers, and they have not changed for me. So let's just go ahead and say it. Sue Storm, I think, is an S tier healer, and you can't argue it. So let's go ahead and throw Luna and Mantis, because you guys already know I put them up there last time. They're still cracked. They slightly nerfed Luna's ultimate, but they didn't, and they slightly nerfed Mantis's movement speed. Who cares? These are still the best healers in the game. We got Luna, Mantis, Sue Storm, and I think Sue Storm, honestly, if you were to put these a little more nuanced, I would say she is slightly above Mantis, lower than Luna. I still think Luna's the best healer in the game, and I'm very excited to see what people do with her. Next up, we have Jeff the Shark. He's C tier. He's not a very good healer. They did buff his heals, and they did make his ult a little more effective. I still think he's not very good. I don't care what anybody says. He's not a good healer. Next up, Rocket Raccoon, B tier. He does decent damage. He respawns people. He's got the armor packs. His ult is, what does it do? Nothing. I think, you know what? We're not going to C tier. That might make people mad, and I have to be okay with that. It's my personal opinion, guys. So when I see Rockets on my team, I'm not excited. And anytime, by the way, that I see no Mantis, no Luna, I know we're going to lose. Like, if you have a Loki and a Warlock, or a Loki and a Rocket, or any combination of any characters other than having at least one Luna and one Mantis, you're probably going to lose, and you have to be okay with it. Next up, let's talk about Loki. He's high A, low S. Very, very good healer. Very hard to deal with. His ultimate is still insane. They've done nothing to adjust him in the new season, and I think he is the 4th best healer in the game. And I have to say, I think you give him the edge. When you have amazing Lokis, they are the only ones that can make the case for you that he's better than Cloak and Dagger. For the most part, I don't think he's better, but I've noticed that insane Lokis can do crazy work, and that ultimate to steal anybody's ult, it's broken. That's why we got to put him above Cloak and Dagger. Cloak and Dagger is still a very, very good healer. They do crazy DPS, and their ult's cracked, and they just buffed her ult, which is really, really cool, and they quickened how fast it takes to shift between Cloak and Dagger. But I still think she's worse than Loki slightly. Sorry. That's my opinion. And this is my official tier list for Season 1 of Marvel Rivals Eternal Nightfall. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments. I'm sure you will. Flame me there. We'll have a lot of fun arguing, if you will. And if you want to see more videos like this, make sure to comment down below and tell me what you want to see next. Take it easy, fam. We'll see you later. Peace.